Kamma chaloka tipati sahampati kantanjaliyan tivaran ayachatan sahanti dasahata araja kajatika dehi se tudhamam anukam himam vajam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ dhammāṃ saṅghāṃ namassāmi. So I'd like to take leave of the Sangha, ask permission to speak on Dhamma, and warm welcome to the lay people. Everyone's come here today, so this is our third or fourth Sunday of this year's Rains Retreat. Time going by very quickly, and big change in atmosphere from last Sunday. Any of you that were here, big crowd, lots of lay people. Lots of monks, so more retreat-like today. Certainly, it was very nice hosting our Luang Por last week. He's travelled on his way now. So you see the community here. We're rather diminished today. This being the Rains Retreat, we all have the chance to go on what's called, we call it sometimes private retreat or forest retreat, something like that, forest practice. And so at any given time there might be 2 or 3 or 4 of us away practicing quietly in the forest. It's a treat really, not a retreat, we'll call it a real treat, to spend time alone. Just come down for the meal, take your food, silently put your food in your bowl, and then go back to your hut, and if there's nothing really urgent, not interact with anyone at all, so just quiet time. The Buddha himself did this. It's called Patisalli, when he went into seclusion. He'd say, monks, I'm going off into seclusion, don't disturb me, apart from the monk who brings me my food. So it's a long, hallowed tradition. It's not done so much, actually, in Ajahn branch monasteries, but certainly it's kept up in some places, and in here is a very lovely chance, so all of us will have that chance. We do a rotation. So there's a few of us are away for that. They're up there in the forest somewhere, hopefully striving. Send them your metta before you leave. And then there's a few of us, including Luang Por, who have gone down to the Bay Area today to pay their respects. It's called paying respects, asking for forgiveness. Actually, we did it last week as well on the occasion of the birthdays of Luang Por and Luang Por Sumedho. It's our traditional way of both paying respects and asking for forgiveness. And this, again, is a hallowed tradition, one of the principles, both of Sangha life, but by extension, a lovely Dharma principle of acknowledging that there may be some kind of fault, some kind of transgression. You may have said or done or thought something not so nice about somebody, and a lovely way to deal with that, to work with that, and to make amends, either directly if there's an issue you have to resolve, or just in the heart, is to simply ask for forgiveness. So, if there's anything, I apologize, even if there's nothing. And it's very linked with the idea of respect. Because obviously when you respect one another, you care for these types of relationships, and you respect yourself as well. So again, this is as well as something we do in general. It can be on a birthday, or somebody's birthday, just to go and visit them, or just on an occasion of visiting somebody, especially at the start of the Rains Retreat in Thailand. Then usually closer to the beginning of the rains retreat, the monks will travel around, usually in the area nearby, somewhere in their province. If it's our own sangha, we call it the Ajahn Sangha, we'll visit the senior monks in our tradition. Wat Papong, Luang Por Liam. When my preceptor was still alive, we'd go and visit him. And then each district has got you could say, the senior monk of the Ajahn Chah tradition, and all the various branch monasteries will maybe arrange a day and all go together and pay respect. So, kind of all around the 2 or 3 days around the entry to the rains, you just see these pickup trucks just full of groups of monks, just driving around the highway. And sometimes you bump into the same group in one monastery, and then you bump into them in the afternoon in another monastery. And we've all got these trays like this. Not so beautiful, but something like this, tray of candles, flowers and incense, which we then offer to each of the senior monks who we're going to pay respect to. So it's a very lovely thing, these kind of groups of guys driving around the country in pickup trucks with kind of robes, dusty robes and flowers, going to offer them to venerable elders and ask forgiveness. And then it provides the occasion to receive a little Dharma reflection as well. So both the Ajahn Chah within our Sangha, but also to what we call the administrative Sangha. And they've got the forest monks, got the administrative Sangha. And so today they've gone down to the Bay Area, where there's one of the most senior monks in our tradition, in the Thai Sangha. His name is Tancha Kun Mahaprasad, down there, and I think it's what Buddhanuson, Fremont. And so by way of establishing those warm relationships, because we're still part of the same Sangha, not being divisive between the forest monks and the administrative or the city monks. And so they're down there and doing that, having made the appointment, and they'll be back today. So again, very, very lovely little thing, these things which we do, these little points, little like defining moments or important little events in our calendar, which can seem like a bit like rituals, because some of the monks going down there maybe never even met him. So if you never met somebody, you don't really have much to ask forgiveness for, you might say. But it provides the opportunity and reminds oneself always that there's always something which we can just begin by saying, if there's anything, and you might even take the samsaric perspective and past lives, who knows, right back to the unimaginable past, who knows who we've bumped into and under what circumstances. We would like to clear the slate, start afresh, and then it provides the chance for that person to give Dhamma. So I was thinking about this today, and I had this very fond memory of my own preceptor. That's the monk who ordained me. It was one of Ajahn Chah's most senior disciples, called Ajahn or Luang Por Maha Amon. Actually, Amon is the Thai version of Amara. It's pronounced Amon, so it's like Amaro, so it's the same name as Ajahn Amaro. Maha Amon was his name. And he was quite old. Certainly I always thought of him as very old. He was in his 60s and 70s, which seemed ancient to me at the time when I ordained. Now it doesn't seem so old anymore. And very, very, very small, very tiny monk, and often a bit sickly. He'd been basically sickly since his 30s and 40s. So we'd go and pay respects to him. The first time I went was actually with Ajahn Pasano in 89, May 89, July 89. I can remember it very well. And I was a novice, just recently ordained, and just being amazed by, again, this whole thing. And we're driving around, we go to one monastery, we pay respects, we offer flowers, do this chant, and then they give us a little teaching, and it's all just very otherworldly, but very, very sweet. At the time I couldn't speak Thai, so I couldn't understand what was going on. Then many years later, going back and repeating the process every year at the start of the rains and beginning to learn Thai, I began to hear these little lovely snippets of Dhamma. And he often would reflect when we go and see him that the word is, in Thai, is kaurop, which means to respect. It comes from the word karawa, which is one of the words we chant when we do the Sutra on the highest blessing. So he would often do a little snippet of this Sutra on the highest blessings, a couple of lines, and then reflect on it. He would often say, karawo chat niwato chat santutti chakatandyutta kalena dhamma savanang etang mangkalamuttamang. And that's what we chant when we do it in English. Respectfulness and being of humble ways, contentment and gratitude, and hearing the Dhamma frequently taught, these are the highest blessings. So he'd say that. And then he'd go on to say what we knew already. He'd say, today is a day of samma karawa. Samma means right respect. So appropriate, timely, suitable gesture of respect, where you junior monks come and pay respects to me, and we can see how we're doing. And it's a way of humbling yourself, because respectfulness and of humble ways, the two very much go together. So you're making yourselves humble. When you're humble, then you're able to listen to the Dhamma. So he would kind of then just, spontaneously reflect on these themes. So each little verse like that gives you a kind of a little list to then kind of go through and share some spontaneous reflections. Contentment, then he would encourage us. He'd say, contentment, you're young monks, you've all gone forth now in this forest tradition. You have to be contented with any robes, any lodgings, any alms food, whatever medicines you get, not being demanding, all of these kind of principles. And then it leads to gratitude. You would often ask us, the junior monks, how have you repaid the debt of gratitude to your mother? These kind of things. He would often ask us. How often do we reflect on principles like gratitude? Or he would talk about the duties towards the teacher and encourage us junior monks to look after the abbot. And so these kind of things. So using this verse from the Sutta of the Highest Blessings, and then of course, and the timely hearing of Dhamma. So when you have respect, when you go and pay respect to people, when you're humble, then you're open to the Dhamma. You're humble. You have contentment in your heart, so you're not being proud. When you're proud or arrogant, you're kind of closed. And you understand gratitude, you have gratitude to people. All of these things basically open up your heart, and the timely hearing of the Dhamma. So your cup is empty, not full. You're open rather than closed. When your cup's empty, you can receive. So it's just a very nice, just a very warm memory. And just thinking, so here we are, obviously, in the States, in California, it's different. You're not going to see pickup truckloads of monks kind of cruising around the back roads of Mendocino. But there's certainly one van going up and down today, and there's a few others around the country. And there's other monks in our tradition try and get together. After the rains, there'll be katina ceremonies, joining in and helping. So that's how we grow, that's how we share our life together in this way, sometimes through little ceremonies, or like days like this. We have a day, a Sunday, you make the effort to come. And then it opens us up, it gives rise to something. And ultimately these things are all, what we call skillful means. You will have heard of that word before. They're just methods, they're techniques. There's nothing holy intrinsically in them. They're not purification practices, they're not holy rituals. But if we use them well, of course, they affect, or they bring about, conduce to helping us along the way with our practice. So just to move on, I was thinking about something which I'd seen last week, a T-shirt that somebody was wearing. I said the other day, I often look at these little signs in shop windows or bumper stickers, and it's often fun looking at people's T-shirts, because these T-shirts have these kind of slogans on them. And especially in monasteries these days, in Thailand, it's a real fashion now to kind of have monastery T-shirts with kind of little dharmic slogans. I'm sure you've seen them here, Thai, English. And then this particular one I saw, it was a real kind of combination. It wasn't just Thai, English. It was kind of Dharma, and then there's this kind of computer language. So it was very much the kind of the sort of intersection of old and new, East, West. And then even the Thai words come from Pali. So this person was wearing a T-shirt. It said in English, it said format, and then in Thai, jit, which comes from citta, which means the mind. So if you have to understand Thai and English to get that. So it's for the kind of the sort of middle class, educated Dharma practitioner. It's a very sort of narrow group. This kind of that it's aiming at. Format jit, delete gam, and gam is the Thai for Kamma. So format was in English, jit was written in Thai, delete was in English, and then gam was written in Thai. So format, jit, delete, gum. So kind of snappy little sort of Dharma slogan, sort of thought for the day, how to practice Dharma. And, you kind of get the idea. I mean, I'm not a computer person at all myself, but even I can get the idea, something to be like, you format your mind so you kind of, improve it, make it kind of good and not clunky and get the operating system, whatever, up to speed or whatever you do when you format your computer or your smartphone. And then, of course, delete, karma, presumably meaning bad karma. Yes, that would be most people's understanding, delete, because in Thai you just use the word karma, a bit like in English when you say, oh man, heavy karma, or, bad, karma, or that's karmic, or, yeah, man, karma. It generally refers to bad karma, and it's a little bit of a misuse of the term in that karma actually refers to the action, say the original action. We usually use it in the sense of some kind of result of some, unwholesome action. So it's just like bad karma manifesting, something like that. And it's the same in Thai. They use the word karma usually for the kind of results. Technically there's another word which we should use, like the fruits, phala or vipaka, the results. So that's the general idea. So format jit is sort of like improve the state of your mind, and the bad stuff, delete it. Which, yeah, generally that's kind of the right idea, isn't it? And that's a bit in line with the way the Buddha taught what we call right effort. Right effort can be kind of boiled down to two things, really. The effort to cultivate and look after wholesome things, and to avoid doing and then abandon unwholesome things, you see. So do the good things and avoid the evil. General good kind of principle. There's the slight danger, though, especially using a word like delete with karma, is that you can kind of get the idea that there's this button you can press somewhere, sort of mental button or some kind of technique which you can do, which can sort of somehow literally delete things which you've done. And I think that would be generally people's wish, and that's certainly how, in a sense, a lot of the time people practice. Say in Thailand anyway, people often, there's an expression in Thai which is literally translated as to wash away your sins, to cleanse your sins. You come to the monastery, people make an offering, and a bit the understanding is they've done something a bit naughty, and now you come to the monastery and you're coming to wash it away, literally to kind of like, a bit like to delete it, like it didn't happen now, we've kind of cancelled it out, do some good. But, without going into too many details, that's not really quite how it works. And the Buddha was very clear on that we can't, once something's been done, you can't undo it, basically. There's no undo button or there's no delete button. It's a bit like an email. I think these days people talk about the thing of sending emails that you didn't want to send, or written in haste or something. Once it's sent, you can't, bring it back, or like real words spoken. Once you've upset somebody on one level, there's nothing you can do about that. So it's also important then to consider, well, what is it then with our spiritual path? How does it really work? Then if we're not really quite sort of deleting unwholesome things, what is it really? It's much more of a bit of a neutralization and then a transformation is how I would look at it. So the Buddha's simile around karma is a very beautiful one. The Buddha talked about, described unwholesome actions that we do as salt, and the wholesome actions that we can do as water. And so if you have salt, say a spoonful of salt, and you dissolve it in a glass of water, so it's the unwholesome salt and the wholesome water, then it's going to still taste very salty. So that's basically the gist, is that there's still, obviously there'll be the clear results of what we do. But if you were to take that spoonful of salt and dissolve it in say, a lake, the thing is that the salt is still there, but it just doesn't taste, hardly taste at all, or if at all. So it's not about deleting. There's no magic trick really here, no purification in that sense. The role of all the wholesome things that we do is effectively to, you could say, to compensate or to neutralize the results. And you can just see that, say, just like in something like in daily life. When we might, say, offend somebody, if obviously we're in very good standing with that person, if we've been, really helpful to that person over the years, then a moment of heedlessness, a thoughtless word, may not really affect the relationship or won't offend them. Basically, they know, okay, so and so is basically a good guy, and you still, they still like you, or you still like them. But if you haven't, if there's not that store of wholesomeness there, then it doesn't take much to, we would say, to sour things, to make things very salty in this sense. So that's the general principle. So when we understand this, then we know that's really what we're doing as we go through our lives. Yeah, we do things basically which cause ourselves, which cause other people to suffer. That's what we call unskillful, unwholesome. That's our criteria, really, the things which we learn to investigate. What makes me suffer? What makes somebody else suffer? This is how we basically define wholesome and unwholesome, because you can ask a whole different bunch of people what's wholesome, unwholesome, good, bad, and you get quite a range of opinions. But when you really begin to really ask yourself, then you get your own perspective on it. It's like your own compass begins to pick it up for yourself, and you can't judge for someone else. This practice is very much about learning to see for yourself and then trust yourself. Obviously, with the help of teachers and input, Dharma input, but it's our own little path of training. And then to learn then what are the things which really bring us, true happiness. What are those things? And do more and more and more of those things as a way of balancing, as a way of compensating, as a way of cushioning the dukkha which is already, or the suffering, the dis-ease, which is always inherent in our life to a certain extent. So the point is not, there's no way we're going to, delete, eliminate, sort of get rid of the basic dukkha of human existence, birth, old age, death, these kinds of things, and the various needs of the body, and the things we've done in the past in our lives, which were unskillful, which cause us remorse, or which still, having been done, they've always been done. But we have this means then to begin to limit the effect that they have on us, and so this is the combination of, we could call it neutralizing, where you begin to lessen the effects, and then ultimately transforming. And so this path really is why we call it a path, because it's something which we walk slow and steady, and we journey onwards, and a certain change takes place in us where, ultimately then, on the ultimate sense, whatever's done has been done in the past, but it loses its power to affect us through the way we change our relationship to the past, also to the present, also to the future, and our own very mind, our mind and body, relating to it very differently. As we develop on the path, then again, as we understand just simple things like, well, we have to let go, we have to forgive, we have to, those things which we've done, which say at first cause us remorse. I'm sure you've all done this, gone over it again and again. Why did I do that? Why did I say that? Usually a lot to do with ourselves. Sometimes other people. How could he have done that? How could she have done that? That blaming. Then we know that changes in time, and that's an internal shift. It's an internal transformation, knowing bit by bit things happen for causes and conditions. Things happen for reasons. There's no specific person in control here. You begin to. So all of these things come together, whether it's lofty Dharma concepts like emptiness and non-self, we just basic principles like, yeah, you have to forgive, you have to move on, you have to let go. Stuff happens. And this is how it, becomes a transformative path. Even people say can work through things like very, very powerful trauma, these kind of things, through shifting the relationship to it. So this is where we understand and we have this path. So many of the steps which we can investigate or look for ourselves, but laid out in this Buddhist training or by our teachers. If it's the monks, we have our monks' rules, for example, and then we have the way we do things in the monastery and all our little aspects of training, plus the meditation, learning how to put that all into practice, like a manual and a real practice. So there's both the theory, but really also the practice. And it's the same in lay life, the kind of teachings on like what are the highest blessings, these loving kindness type practices, as well as the meditation practice, beginning with precepts, of course, is like a kind of fundamental building blocks of how to begin this and carry on this path then of basically working with. We have to work with our Kamma. Kamma literally means action or deeds which have been done. So we do this chant, I'm the owner of my Kamma, heir to my Kamma, born of my Kamma, related to my Kamma. Whatever I do, for good or for ill, of that I be the heir. So that there's no delete in there. There's no magic button or magic trick. But it's a way of working with it, relating to it, understanding it, and then knowing how to transform it. So today I just thought I'd share these few words, little reflections you can think about on this occasion, and wish everybody all the best in their practice and working with your or our Kamma.
Dhamma.